My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old and have been married to the man I once believed was my life partner, Ryan Carter, for 6 years. We used to be a peaceful couple. No jealousy, no drama, no trust issues. We both worked hard, laughed often, and despite the usual ups and downs of life, we were happy. Or at least I thought we were. Everything began so subtly that I didn't notice the signs at first. Ryan started responding to my messages with short, cold replies. When he got home from work, he would go straight to the office and close the door, claiming he needed quiet. That wasn't like him. He used to hug me the moment he stepped through the door. He always wanted to know how my day went, who I talked to, if I had lunch. But suddenly, that caring part of him just disappeared, and I, foolishly, blamed stress from work. One evening, while he was in the shower, I heard his phone buzz on the dresser. A message popped up. I didn't mean to look, I really didn't, but the screen lit up and I couldn't help but see the name. Mom. His mother. And the beginning of her message read, "I've told you before she can't be trusted. I saw her with my own eyes getting into that coworker's car." My stomach turned. Not out of guilt, but confusion. What coworker? What car? And what did she mean I couldn't be trusted? When Ryan came out of the bathroom, he asked if something was wrong. "I'm just tired," I replied, swallowing the knot in my throat. The next day, I called his sister, Sarah, who I'd always gotten along with. At first, she hesitated to speak, but eventually, she let it slip. "Emily, Mom's been telling everyone in the family that you have some kind of special relationship with a guy named Brandon from your office. She swears she saw you two together, that he's dropped you off at your place multiple times." My hands went cold. "Brandon?" "Yes, he's my coworker. We often grab lunch together since we share the same break time. He's always been kind, respectful, and a bit nerdy, to be honest. But a romantic relationship? That was laughable. No worse. It was cruel." Suddenly, things began to make sense. The way Ryan had been pulling away, the awkward glances I got from his aunt at last week's dinner, the cryptic text I got from his cousin about respecting your marriage. It all traced back to this lie. This ridiculous, petty lie. And what hurt most was knowing how much I had always tried to win his mother's approval. Despite her being controlling, critical, and constantly meddling in our lives, even deciding which brand of detergent we should use, I always kept my cool. I never argued, never talked back. I played the role of the perfect daughter-in-law. And maybe that was the real problem. At the end of that week, Brandon came to the office with his wife, Ashley, who was 8 months pregnant. That's when it hit me. My mother-in-law didn't even know Brandon was married. She had no real clue who he was. She saw something she didn't understand, or worse, she made it up completely. That evening, I decided I couldn't let this go any longer. I needed to confront Ryan, so I sat him down and asked him, as calmly as I could, what he thought was happening. He avoided my eyes for a long moment and then finally admitted, "Mom said you and Brandon were close, that she saw you holding hands." I didn't want to believe it, Emily. But after that, I started noticing your late messages, the calls. It made me wonder. I felt my heart break a little. Brandon is my co-worker, Ryan. He's married. His wife is about to have their baby. We talk about spreadsheets and deadlines, not love. Do you really think I would betray you like that? With a married man? Without even asking me, you just believed her. He didn't answer. He just lowered his head, full of shame or maybe doubt. The silence between us felt louder than any argument. It wasn't just about the lie, it was about trust. About the realization that the man I had given years of my life to had chosen to believe a rumor before even looking me in the eyes. And the most painful part, his mother knew exactly what she was doing. She had never liked me. She always said I stole her son. And now, she had found the perfect way to drive a wedge between us. And that wedge was already starting to break us apart. After that night, things between me and Ryan didn't go back to normal. He apologized twice, even cried once, but I could still see the hesitation in his eyes. That awful seed his mother planted had taken root. Even if he said he believed me now, there was still something different in the way he looked at me, as if part of him still wondered, what if she really did something? It broke my heart, and yet I tried. I truly tried. I made dinner every night. I left him little notes like I used to. I told him about my day, even when all I got was a nod in return. I smiled through the silence, hugged through the distance. I fought for us, because I believed in our marriage. I believed in him. But every time we visited his parents, the air was thick with tension. My mother-in-law, Carol, acted like nothing had happened. She hugged Ryan tightly, asked about his work, complimented his shirt, and ignored me like I was part of the wallpaper. Worse than ignoring, she smiled at me with that kind of smile people wear when they think they've won something. And I couldn't shake the feeling that she wanted this, that she wanted me gone. One Sunday afternoon, we were having lunch at their house when it happened. Ryan's cousin Megan looked at me and said with a sugary voice, "So, Emily, still working with that Brandon guy?" I blinked. Carol jumped in quickly, laughing. "Oh, Megan, don't stir the pot." Emily's already had enough rumors going around her. And everyone at the table laughed. Everyone except Ryan. I looked at him, my heart pounding, expecting him to defend me, to say something, anything. But he just stared down at his plate, pushing a piece of chicken around with his fork. That's when I realized I was standing alone in this battle. Back in the car, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "You didn't say a word," I said, my voice trembling. "They laughed at me. Your mother humiliated me in front of everyone, and you just sat there." He looked torn. "What did you want me to do? Start a fight at the table?" "I wanted you to stand by me," I snapped. "To say I didn't deserve that. To remind them that I'm your wife." He didn't answer. He never did when it involved his mother. And that was the real problem. Carol wasn't just gossiping. She was manipulating everything. And Ryan, he was letting her. A few days later, I decided to take action. I wasn't going to let a lie destroy my marriage, not without a fight. So, I invited Brandon and Ashley over for dinner. Ryan wasn't thrilled when I told him, but I insisted. That evening, we laughed, shared stories about work, and Brandon even brought the reports we had been working on to show exactly why we had been in contact so often. Nothing romantic, just tasks, deadlines, numbers. At one point, Ashley said, "Honestly, I've always told Brandon how lucky he is to work with someone like Emily. She's focused, kind, and never once overstepped any boundary." Ryan nodded slowly. Something shifted in his expression. He was starting to see it, not just hear it, but really see it. That the story his mother told made no sense. That the truth had always been right in front of him. But it still wasn't enough, because the damage had already been done. Our nights became quieter. We stopped touching each other as much. And even though Ryan tried to reconnect, there was always this invisible wall between us, built by suspicion and held up by silence. One night, I found a note in my bag. A small, folded piece of paper, written in rushed, almost angry handwriting. I recognized it immediately. It was from Carol. "You can pretend all you want, but I know what kind of woman you are. Don't ruin my son's life more than you already have." That was it. No name. No greeting. Just those words. I sat there in the kitchen, staring at that note, hands shaking. How far was she willing to go? And more importantly, how long was Ryan going to let her? The truth needed to come out. Not just to Ryan, but to the entire family. I couldn't live under that cloud anymore. I had been silent for too long. So I made a plan. A calm, careful plan. And it started with gathering evidence. Every message, every email, every proof that could show I had nothing to hide. Because if my marriage was going to survive, the truth had to shout louder than the lies. And this time, I would not let anyone silence me. I wasn't the type of person to create drama or confront people. But that version of me had been slowly dissolving under the weight of lies and silence. I was tired of feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. Tired of being doubted, humiliated, and disrespected. So, I gathered everything I could. Emails from work showing the professional tone between me and Brandon, screenshots of group messages that included him and others from the office, pictures of team lunches where we were surrounded by colleagues, not alone as Carol had claimed. Even Ashley offered to write a short statement confirming how often Brandon talked about his workload and how little time he had for anything other than preparing for their baby's arrival. I organized it all into a neat folder. Then, I waited for the right moment. That moment came 2 weeks later, at a family dinner that Carol had arranged at her home for Ryan's birthday. The table was full, his aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone smiling, laughing, sipping wine. I knew what I was about to do would catch them all off guard, but I also knew it had to be done. After dinner, I stood up and tapped my glass gently. All eyes turned to me. My hands trembled a little, but my voice came out steady. I know this might not be what anyone expected tonight, I began, but I need to speak the truth. Not just for me, but for my marriage. For Ryan. Some people exchanged glances. Carol crossed her arms. There's been a rumor going around, I continued, started by someone in this very room. A lie that nearly destroyed everything Ryan and I built together. A lie that I was having an affair with a coworker. There was a ripple of surprise across the table. Some gasped. Others looked at Carol. I've stayed quiet for too long. But silence gives power to the lie. So tonight, I'm here to show you all the truth. I placed the folder on the table and passed copies around. Emails, photos, statements, everything. As people read through the pages, I watched expressions change. Surprise, shame, disbelief. I work hard. I come home every night. I've never once broken my vows. And yet, someone decided that I was a threat. Someone spread a story without ever talking to me, without asking a single question. Carol finally spoke. This is ridiculous. You're turning my son's birthday into a courtroom. I looked straight at her. No, Carol. You turned our lives into a courtroom the moment you started judging me without facts. You whispered lies into ears that trusted you. And your words nearly destroyed your own son's happiness. She tried to interrupt, but Ryan stood up. His voice was quiet, but firm. Mom, is it true? Did you make all this up? The room went silent. All eyes turned to her. Carol hesitated. I didn't make it up. I saw them together and... You said you saw them holding hands, he interrupted. That they looked like lovers. But Brandon is married, Mom. His wife is pregnant. And Emily has never given me a single reason to doubt her. The only reason I did was because of you. The silence in that room felt like thunder. Carol looked stunned, caught between indignation and guilt. But the damage was already done. The whispers had stopped. The shame had shifted. Later that evening, Ryan and I sat in the car for a long time before driving home. He turned to me, voice shaking. I'm so sorry, Emily. I should have trusted you. I let her voice become louder than yours. I nodded, tears pooling in my eyes. It's going to take time, Ryan. I forgave you the moment you doubted me. But trusting again, that's going to take work. He reached for my hand. For the first time in weeks, I didn't pull away. At home, we talked until the sun came up. About boundaries. About trust. About the life we wanted, with or without the interference of others. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like we were building something again, this time on firmer ground. But I also knew one thing for sure. I would never let someone else's jealousy define my worth again. The weeks that followed were strange. Not quiet, not peaceful, just strange. There's a certain awkwardness that settles over everything after the truth comes out, especially when it shatters long-held assumptions. My mother-in-law, Carol, didn't apologize. Not properly. She sent a short message through Ryan, saying she didn't mean to cause trouble and hoped we could all move on. Move on. It's easy to say that when you were the one holding the match, not the one standing in the ashes. Ryan, to his credit, was trying. More than ever. He started going to therapy on his own, saying he needed to understand why it had been so easy to believe his mother instead of me. He came home earlier. He helped with everything, even things he never touched before, like laundry or meal prep. And most importantly, he listened. Really listened. There was one night, maybe a month after the family dinner, when I walked into our bedroom and found him sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at an old photo album. And it was a picture of our wedding day. I had a soft smile. He was laughing. Carol, in the background, was looking at us, frozen in an expression I hadn't noticed before, one that now looked almost bitter. Ryan looked up at me and said, "I think she never wanted to lose me, and instead of facing that fear, she turned it into control." That moment was hard for him. I could see it in his eyes. He was grieving the image of a mother he thought he knew. And maybe I was grieving too, the idea that I could ever be enough for her, that one day she would accept me. But grief, when faced head-on, gives room for growth. After a lot of discussion, Ryan and I made a decision. A hard one, but a necessary one. We needed space from his mother. Not forever. Not to cut ties, but to rebuild our marriage without her shadow hovering over us. We told her, gently but firmly, that we were taking a break from weekly visits and family dinners. That we loved her, but we needed to focus on our relationship. Carol didn't take it well. She sent messages, left voicemails, told relatives that I was turning her son against her. But this time, something had shifted. The family didn't rally around her like before. They had seen the truth. They had read the evidence with their own eyes. And more than that, they saw Ryan taking responsibility, not blaming me, not distancing himself, but standing by me. It was uncomfortable for everyone. But sometimes, discomfort is what paves the way for clarity. Months passed. Ryan and I grew stronger, not perfect, but stronger. We started new routines, took weekend trips again, even attended a marriage workshop together. We talked more openly than we ever had before, not just about Carol, but about everything. Dreams, doubts, fears. There were still moments of hesitation, when his phone buzzed and I flinched, or when I came home late from work and caught his worried expression, but we talked through them. And slowly, that invisible wall between us began to fall. One afternoon, I was at the grocery store when I ran into Sarah, Ryan's sister. She pulled me into a hug and said quietly, "I'm so sorry for everything. I should have spoken up sooner." I smiled, not bitterly, but softly. "It's okay. You did when it mattered." She looked down, then added, "Mom's different lately. More quiet. She won't admit it, but I think she's starting to realize she pushed too far." I didn't say anything, because in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't waiting for an apology anymore. I didn't need Carol to say she was sorry. I didn't need the family to praise me or take my side. What I needed, and had now, was my voice back, my peace back, and my marriage, no longer built on appearances, but on truth. One evening, as Ryan and I sat on the porch watching the sky change colors, he reached for my hand. "I almost lost you," he said quietly. "But you didn't," I replied, and that was enough. We still had work to do, still had wounds to heal, but we had something else now, too, something no gossip could destroy, the choice to protect what matters, to fight for what's real, and to never again let someone else write our story. Because the truth, it may take time, it may come quietly, but when it arrives, it sets everything back in place. And I was finally, beautifully at peace.